The appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Agenda item 1. Information papers issued since last meeting. Since the last meeting, the Legislative Secretariat has issued one paper that is set out on the agenda. It is the administration's response to the submission from the Government Employees Association. Please take note of that. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular meeting will be held on the 28th of April 2026. It's a Tuesday. It will start at 10:45 a.m. The administration suggests discussing the following items. 1. Heads of department accountability system, and 2. Promotion of volunteer service in the civil service and publicizing good stories of civil servants. Do members have any comments on the above items to be discussed? If not, on the 28th of April, we will discuss the above items. Agenda item 3. Civil service related matters featured in the 2026-27 budget. I will invite the representatives from the government to come in first. All LegCo members are invited to attend the discussion of this item. Members who'd like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. Attending this item, we have Mrs. Ingrid Yeung, Secretary for the Civil Service, Ms. Shirley Lam, Permanent Secretary for the Civil Service, Mr. Oscar Kwok, Head of the Civil Service College, and 2 other representatives from the CSB. Secretary, please walk us through the paper. Thank you. The theme of this year's policy address is about leveraging technology. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank members of the LegCo as well as members of other sectors to provide valuable comments to the government during the budget consultation period. The 2026-27 budget announced a number of measures related to the civil service, and the relevant details are set out in the administration paper. I will touch on the highlights. First, on civil service establishment. The government will continue to reinforce the fiscal consolidation program to strictly control operating expenditure. In line with the productivity enhancement program and our plan to make use of manpower resources in 2026-27 and 2027-28, we will reduce the civil service establishment by 2% each in the above 2 years. Together with the posts deleted under the zero growth policy in civil service establishment, it is estimated that a cumulative reduction of over 10,000 posts will be achieved within this current term of the government. All bureaus and their departments, after reviewing factors such as overall service demand, operational needs, and vacancy situations, have made arrangements to reduce the civil service establishment by 2% in 2026-27. As of the 1st of April this year, the overall civil service establishment is expected to be reduced to about 188,000 posts. There are views that we are only cutting vacant posts and it will not bring real savings to the government. I'd like to take the opportunity to explain that each government department and bureau is allocated with financial provisions for personal emoluments based on establishment rather than on strength, and directorate offices seize the flexibility to reduce provision based on their actual circumstances and needs. So we can actually reduce financial provisions and also achieve savings for the government. Government bureaus and departments will continue to adopt management measures. For example, through prioritization, internal redeployment, and streamlining of work processes and application of technology, we will enhance efficiency. While the civil service is further streamlined, we will continue to implement measures and services for the public, and at the same time we'll be able to handle the workload. Now I'd like to talk about civil service pay. We noticed that there are a number of discussions at the community level about the civil service pay. We are in accordance with the established mechanism, taking forward relevant work of the 2026-27 civil service pay adjustment. The 2026 pay trend survey has commenced. It is expected that the results will be ready by May. As usual, the Chief Executive and Council will take full consideration of all relevant factors, including the state of Hong Kong's economy, changes in the cost of living, the government's fiscal position, the net pay trend indicators derived from the PTS, the pay claims of the staff sides, and civil service morale when deciding on the 2026-27 civil service pay adjustment arrangements. On civil service training, in 2026-27, the expected expenditure is about $259 million. The Civil Service College will continue to roll out relevant training. We will also work with the Digital Policy Office to provide training and online learning resources themed around AI to enable civil servants to better grasp the relevant knowledge. The Civil Service College will also continue to enhance elements related to AI and technology application in leadership training for civil servants, enabling leaders to guide the departments in adopting AI more widely to improve public services. In addition, the college will implement the Governance Talents Development Program to cultivate a pool of governance talent who love the country and Hong Kong and are familiar with the national development and international landscape as well as local circumstances. On short-term internship programs for tertiary students, the CSB will coordinate the provision of diversified internship opportunities for young people by bureaus and departments on a yearly basis. In 2026-27, we will provide about 3,600 short-term internship placements so that students who aspire to pursue a career in public service may gain invaluable practical experience and better plan for their career development. On providing medical benefits, we will continue to fulfill our obligations as an employer. For CSEPs, we will continue to provide medical benefits for them. The services provided by the HA are under the financial provision for the HA. As for the Families Clinic services, apart from the recurrent provision, we will continue to implement the pilot scheme on dental scaling as well as the pilot scheme on services provided in Shenzhen. We'll also provide vaccination services for seasonal flu. The highlights of our work are already included in the controlling officer's reports as well as the 2026-27 budget. We will continue to take forward our work that has not been completed or are done on an ongoing basis. That include expanding the function of the Public Service Commission so that we will empower the Public Service Commission to conduct Tier 2 investigation. We'll also enhance the civil service performance appraisal system for differentiating staff performance more effectively. As for other financial provisions, the relevant details are included in the paper. I'm not going to repeat the details here. We welcome any questions from members. Thank you, Secretary. 11 members have asked to speak. I will read out the lineup. Mr. Chris Ip, Ms. Nixie Lam, Mr. Lam Chun Sing, Dr. Johnny Ng, Mr. Kingsley Wong, Mr. Aaron Bok, Mr. Chen Cho Kwong, Mr. Wu Yingpeng, Mr. Lam Wai Kong, Mr. Nick Chen, and myself. 4 minutes, including questions and answers for each member. Please control the time that you spend so that you can leave enough time for the Secretary to respond to your questions. Mr. Chris Yip. Thank you. I would like to ask about paragraphs 5 and 6 of the paper. That is about the Governance Talents Development Program. which grade does the program target? Will there be a set number of quotas for this program? Does the government target to cultivate future talents such as permanent secretaries through the program? Second question is about the internship programs. Many organizations provide internship opportunities and they recruit those who perform well in the internship programs. Will the government adopt the same practice? How will the 3,600 internship placements be distributed? Will those who took part in the internship programs be given priority if they apply for civil service posts? And what will be the percentage of interns you will recruit after they've completed the programs? Secretary, the purpose of the Governance Talents Development Program is that we want to promote those with potential. Even if they are not directorate officers, they would be senior officers with great potential. We want to provide targeted training for them so that they will be able to give full play to their potential as they develop their career, and that they will be able to cope with any future challenges. I will ask Mr. Kwok to respond to the other question. As for the 3,600 internship placements, we invite bureaus and departments to tell us how many interns they need, and the 3,600 internship placements is just a preliminary estimate on our side. The government recruit officers on a fair and impartial basis. So for those who have taken part in our internship programs, they would not be given priority in our recruitment exercise. But according to our previous record, those who have taken part in our internship programs, they see a high success rate in applying for the civil service posts. For example, we have AO and EO internship programs under the CSB. Those who have taken part in these programs, they see a high success rate if they apply for our posts in the future. Now I'll ask Mr. Kwok to talk about the talents program. Mr. Kwok, I have stressed in the past that this program serves as a talent incubator. It does not only target directorate officers within the civil service. It is not designed for this purpose. You can see this program as a system for cultivating talents because we lacked such a system in the past to cultivate government talents. So we are starting this program from scratch. There are many qualities that talents need to develop, not just limited to skills. For example, we need talents to have a strategic mindset. That is about how our officers make judgments on what has not happened yet. Government officers have to have the ability to understand the reasons or causes of different things that may happen, and we require our government officers to have the ability and judgment to grasp any complex situations. So under the Governance Talents Development Program, we will select 159 government officers who are either nominated or self-nominated. And among the 159, we have chosen 40 to join the program. There will be dialogues among leaders, as well as exchange programs with the mainland and overseas countries. There will be also thematic seminars, learning reports, as well as online learning courses for the chosen talents so that they can grasp the mentality they need, as well as grasp the policies of the government and the national as well as international political landscape. They have to cultivate a sense of mission, and they have to upgrade their leadership capabilities. We invite local as well as mainland and overseas experts to take part in mentoring our talents. There will also be mentors from the management of different departments to guide our talents so that they can improve themselves.
Ms. Nixie Lam, thank you. According to the papers, the budget mentioned the introduction of $100 million into the industry to spearhead technology development. We have gone to Shenzhen to tap into their expertise of using AI. AI can help with clerical work. With security features, the efficiency of handling documents will be greatly improved. When it comes to AI, it's always about software and hardware. That means literacy. Do our staff members know how to use AI? Do all civil servants in the government need to have a certain level of AI literacy, or do we have any threshold, such as a certain rank or a certain job type? Next, on hardware. Every Friday, we have meetings of the Finance Committee, and we approve funding applications. I'd like to ask more about this, as after all, the amount of money is quite substantial. Thank you. Secretary, thank you. The DPO and the CSC, that is the Civil Service College, will co-develop an AI training program. We target all civil servants in Hong Kong, save and except frontline officers who do not have regular contact with reports or words. We want to cover basically almost all civil servants in the government. And this is exactly the function of the Civil Service College. We aim to enhance the literacy of civil servants. But across different departments, the use of AI and the extent of the use of AI differ from one to another. That's why we need to target different departments when it comes to the provision of training programs. The college and the DPO aim to enhance overall literacy. We also aim to enhance the use of AI and technology under our training programs. For officers with supervisory duties, we need to let them know the potential and importance of AI and technology, as well as how these aspects can help with their work in the department. Regarding the actual application, the policy bureaus will have to liaise with the relevant departments to gauge what kind of competence that they need to target. The head of the college can give you more information in a moment. As far as I'm concerned, for departments to purchase hardware or software, departments will come to the Finance Committee to ask for approval. However, sometimes the DPO comes to the Finance Committee on Friday as well. Mr. Oscar Kwok, thank you. We need a systematic approach when it comes to technology. Therefore, there is division of work. Leaders across different departments need to know well how they can incorporate the use of AI and technologies to help with their work. Basically, The Civil Service College works on 3 fronts. We shoulder the responsibility for equipping directorate officers. We arrange for staff training. We update work programs. We also enhance department culture as well. We provide different training programs, seminars, and talks to enhance AI literacy for different civil servants. There are both face-to-face classes as well as online classes. These programs provide training for frontline officers. Then they will know what tools they can use at work. Thank you. Mr. Lam Chen Singh. Thank you. I agree with what is mentioned in paragraph 4, that is about the CS pay adjustment. The civil service pay was frozen as announced in the last budget. But the arrangement wasn't quite ideal. I believe we should follow the existing mechanism, that is the pay trend survey. Let us have regard to the 6 factors. It is quite likely that the outcome will be positive based on the 6 factors. The fiscal position of the government has improved. There is inflation. Regarding staff morale, if there is a pay freeze for 2 years in a row, definitely staff morale will be affected. The MTRCL earlier on also announced that for most of their staff members, the pay rise exceeded 3%. So can we take it that the likelihood of civil service pay upward adjustment is quite optimistic? Regarding Head 37, Department of Health Program 7 Medical and Dental Treatment for CS, the total amount is $3,079.9 million. Some civil servants can go to the medical institutions in Shenzhen to receive dental scaling services. I'd like to know whether the CSB has any plans to consider providing more medical services in the GBA. This will provide convenience for civil servants who need to come to Hong Kong and go back to the GBA often. In the long run, this can help us control our expenditure. Thank you. Regarding the pay trend survey and the civil service pay adjustment, there are a total of 6 factors, including the economic conditions of Hong Kong, cost of living changes, pay trend indicators, government's fiscal position, staff pay claims, and civil service morale. These are the 6 factors that we take into account. Just now, Mr. Lam referred to these factors. We need to factor in the fiscal position of the government. According to the budget, as for the recurrent expenditure of the Hong Kong government, we have managed to balance the books earlier on. However, when it comes to public works projects, especially for the development of projects in the Northern Metropolis, much input is still required. We still need to make a lot of investments in the coming few years. That's why we need to tread cautiously. I'm not going to make any conjecture right here. I believe when we have a result in May, we will seek the approval by the Chief Executive and Council as early as possible. Turning to the dental scaling programs in Shenzhen, of course, it has provided some assistance. The number isn't on the high side owing to some reasons. First of all, we need to keep track of our fiscal position. Be it local or Shenzhen medical institutions, we didn't increase any provisions at all. We still use the vacancy rate of dental officers in the Department of Health. Just last year, the DH has seen better recruitment outcomes. And in fact, not all colleagues accept the arrangement of going to the GBA. Actually, it takes quite some time for them to go to the GBA, at least to some civil servants. It might be difficult for them to take 1 day or two to go to the GBA to receive dental services. And these colleagues will have to take leave on their own to go to the GBA to receive dental scaling services. Therefore, some colleagues prefer receiving these services in Hong Kong. For some more complicated cases, the DOH may have to follow up on these cases in Hong Kong. Medical records matter. So does medical history. That's why in some cases it might be better for the DH to be responsible for these cases. Regarding future potential expansion, we will have to take into account the local situation before we make a decision. Dr. Johnny Ng, thank you. It is mentioned that the civil service establishment will be reduced. And I'd like to ask the Secretary, can you put it simply? Is the civil service expenditure going to increase or decrease? By how much? According to the paper, there will be exchange program. That is the Civil Service Staff Exchange and Collaboration Program between Hong Kong and the GBA. I'd like to know how many resources are involved. Thank you. The head actually doesn't cover all expenditure. Some expenditure of civil servants are grouped under the heads of the relevant policy bureaus. I'd like to give you more information. First of all, civil servants enjoy a higher salary point as they have more experience in the civil service. For those reaching the retirement age, of course, their salary point will be higher. As for new recruiters, their salary point is lower on the pay scale. That explains the difference. Next, the CSB is exercising control of the civil service establishment and expenditure. There's an increase in the medical and dental services provided for civil servants. Last year, in the revised estimates, the DH could already see that some positions could not be recruited. I mean, we could not recruit for some positions. Some equipment also needs to be replaced. That explains the increase in the revised estimates. For some free or low-cost items which are demand-driven, we could not foresee the number of programs or the costs. Some have to do with rare diseases. And the last item of an increase has to do with pensions received by pensionable officers. Some civil servants are sent to Shenzhen or other GBA cities. Most of the officers go to Shenzhen, I stand corrected. They take up positions in the Shenzhen municipal government for a period of 3 months. That is how they engage in exchanges with the Shenzhen municipal government. In return, officers in the Shenzhen municipal government are sent to the Hong Kong side for exchanges. This doesn't involve a lot of expenditure. We have a regular mechanism to handle the difference in expenditure. I'd like to know whether there's any figure about the amount of money saved. Well, I don't have an answer or a figure right now. Staff expenditure is scattered throughout different heads. I don't have one figure off the top of my head, but I can look into this. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I have two questions. First, about the government's planning. Recently, our country has endorsed the National 15th Five-Year Plan. There is a dedicated chapter on Hong Kong. Like the Chief Executive said, we have to devise and formulate our own five-year plan for Hong Kong. I want to know, for the training offered by the CSB, is there any training to train up civil servants to formulate our own five-year plan? In Macau, they have formulated their own five-year plans 3 times, so they have relevant experience. I want to know if there is relevant training in Hong Kong under the CSB. Second, about medical and dental benefits and the expenditure. The expected expenditure is $3 billion in this regard, up 450 million compared to last year. As the Secretary said just now, the service is demand-driven, and the CSB as the employer, there's no way for the CSB to cut the expenditure. However, since there is the scaling pilot scheme, I want to know what is the response for the first phase of the pilot scheme. If there is increasing demand for dental services, can there be collaboration between Hong Kong and the mainland so that we can take care of the needs of more civil servants? Secretary, 2 questions. First, on the question about training in relation to formulating our 5-year plan, we have to formulate this 5-year plan within a short period of time, so we do not have specific training programs for devising a 5-year plan, but under our training for staff of different grades and ranks, we do provide courses and programs on allowing our civil servants to understand more about our country. Second, we want our civil servants to have a strategic mindset and perspective that is about how they understand the development of our country, the international landscape, as well as the development of technology. We want them to have the judgment and perspectives, and this is a core part of our training. We want our senior management staff to learn all these through our training. So we are confident that our colleagues will be able to complete the 5-year plan for Hong Kong. Turning to our medical benefits. In relation to the demand for our scaling services, a lot of our expenditure is spent on the reimbursement of medical expenses and hospital charges. Like I said when I responded to Dr. Johnny Ng's questions, we want to set aside enough budget for this. If we aren't able to use up all the budget by the end of this year, we will not allocate the provision to other areas. This is because the services are demand-driven for drugs curing rare diseases. They are very expensive, so we want to set aside enough budget for this. However, it doesn't mean that we have to use up all the money. I, of course, hope that there won't be any civil servants suffering from rare diseases, but please rest assured that we would not randomly spend the money set aside for this purpose. About expanding the GBA pilot scheme, Currently, we are providing a pilot scheme on scaling in the GBA. We have to see whether we have enough financial resources to expand our pilot schemes. However, we do not hope to lower the provision of services provided by the Department of Health and the Hospital Authority. So on one hand, we have to maintain our level of service locally, and on the other hand, we have to see whether we have enough resources to expand our schemes in the GBA. We have to overcome a number of challenges. Under the scaling pilot scheme, there is an X-ray service provided in Shenzhen, and our colleagues can upload their X-ray photos to eHealth. In future, should we adopt the same practice for our civil servants to upload their health records to eHealth? Well, uploading X-ray pictures is rather simple, but we have to overcome challenges if we allow our colleagues to upload other information to eHealth. So we have to take all these into consideration. Next, Mr. Aaron Bock. I have two concerns. First, on the civil service establishment. According to the paper, well, I understand it is part of the government's policy. 10,000 posts will be deleted within the current term of the government, and the target is to reduce 2% of the civil service establishment within this year. We have to develop the northern metropolis. We need to enhance speed and quality, and at the same time, we have to eliminate substandard SDUs. At the same time, we have to develop INT given the international competition, and at the same time, we have to formulate our own 5-year plan. Our civil servants are already facing a huge workload, and you are asking the government to reduce the civil service establishment by 2%. Should the government review this 2% target? Can you not implement this policy across the board? For example, for departments with greater workload, can they have the flexibility not to reduce the establishment by 2%? Also, in relation to training, the standards may differ across different bureaus and departments. Will the Civil Service College take the lead to provide training for all bureaus and departments? We should not only focus on the form of the training. I hope the college will come up with tailor-made courses or programs for different departments and bureaus based on their needs. There should be training that focus on AI. I hope the CSC will take the lead to be the coordinator in this regard. Secretary, on the civil service establishment, we ask bureaus and departments to reduce establishment by 2% in 2026-27 and in 27-28. Government departments and bureaus already have their plans to do so. We do not ask departments and bureaus to cut certain posts or grades. So based on their own operational needs, like Ms. Nixie Lam said, we can make use of AI for cumbersome clerical work. We do not need a civil servant to make very precise judgment in order to complete this kind of tasks. For posts that have to deal with a large amount of information, we can make use of AI. We can leverage technology, so we can delete these posts. It does not mean that for civil servants that are involved in the planning of the northern metropolis, these posts have to be cut. At the same time, we encourage government departments and bureaus to streamline work processes, and that through reprioritization, they could cut posts. For some government departments, over the past 20 to 30 years, there have been a lot of labor-intensive work. However, because of the change of times, such posts could perhaps be cut. Also, not every government department and bureau needs to cut establishment by 2%. We look at different units. For example, we look at the departments or bureaus under each secretary because they all fall under one roof or one umbrella. So as long as they can cut establishment by 2%, it would be acceptable. For departments that need manpower, they could apply for headcount under our central mechanism. While on one hand they have to reduce establishment by 2%, if they need manpower, they could make application to the central department to increase the headcount. So not all government and department and bureau may necessarily see a 2% reduction in terms of the establishment. Also, I want to explain that the functions of the Civil Service College is that it helps to boost the generic skills of our civil servants. In relation to AI-focused training, we are in talks with the Digital Policy Office to enhance the digital literacy of our civil servants. For some civil servants, they may not have the knowledge about how data could assist their daily work. They may not realize the importance of such data, so we hope to enhance the digital literacy of our civil servants as to how our civil servants can make use of AI and to what extent. Each government department and bureau will have to provide their own targeted training to their staff. Perhaps I'll defer to Mr. Kwok. Mr. Kwok, please be brief. On training on generic skills, we want our civil servants to understand the latest development of AI, the potential application scenario of technology, and so on. So there are online courses to train up civil servants for this purpose. To boost digital literacy of our civil servants, we do not just want them to learn about the application scenarios. We want them to change their mindset. That is, they should not resist the use of technology. Instead, they should embrace the reform and pursue innovation. Under this premise, we want government bureaus and departments to come up with their own system and own work processes so that they could decide in what areas they can make use of technology, so that they could incorporate AI into their work. And that's a key. That's why in our training for the management, we stress that the management must act as a leader to redesign and reconfigure our system so that they could decide what kind of AI tools they need to use, and then we can provide targeted training. Next, Mr. Chen Chou-Kwong. I have a question about paragraph 8. I agree that the CSB should outsource the dental scaling services to private organizations. However, I was told that there is a lack of follow-up services. Understand that under the existing mechanism, if you require follow-up, you could be referred back to government dental offices. But the truth is that a lot of civil servants do not get such follow-up services, or they may have to wait for a year after they get dental scaling services in private organizations to receive follow-up services. Also, the medical fees provided by Shenzhen organizations or institutions are much cheaper. Will you outsource the follow-up services to the same Shenzhen institutions? It may only cost dozens of dollars. So it is much cheaper to rely on government dental offices if you outsource these follow-up services to Shenzhen institutions. Also, are you hiring enough dental offices within the government? If not, it will compromise the services quality. Also, I have a question about MPF. Some civil servants, after they have retired, they will not get regular income. will you ensure that those who are under the CSPF scheme will get dental benefits after they're retired? Civil servants are public officers as well as general members of the public. If you exclude the benefits they get as a general member of the public, each civil servant may only get $2,000 and $3,000 worth of medical benefits. If you allow contract staff after they retire to get medical benefits, it would benefit them.
Thank you. Regarding follow-up, it is not the case that there is no follow-up at all. The DH factors in the severity of the cases and then makes arrangements for follow-up. As I understand, the time for follow-up will take a longer time, as not all vacancies have already been filled. Owing to the epidemic, there's a backlog of cases. They are still working very hard to clear the backlog. Therefore, it is not the case that there is no follow-up. But for less complicated cases, the time taken for follow-up might be longer. Regarding outsourcing, first of all, we need to take into account our fiscal position. That is whether we can afford it or not. I believe colleagues will not want to see a reduction of the services provided by the hospital authority as well as the DH. Against this backdrop, it might be difficult to provide even more services in the GBA. Regarding medical record, we will have to ask the DH, as after all, the DH is the department that uses the data. And these are problems that we need to overcome, and we will have to talk to the DH regarding whether there are sufficient dental officers. I will ask Mr. Raymond Chan, the Director of General Grades, to give you more information. As for your last question, for colleagues under the MPF scheme, after retirement, they are still our colleagues. But there are post-retirement contract staff members. We value their experience, and that's exactly why we engage them. For retired civil servants, they can join some trade unions or associations. We welcome their feedback. We keep a close dialogue with them even after their retirement. Regarding the provision of dental services for an annual dental checkup or for 1 to 2 attendances at family clinics by civil servants, I'm not sure about the estimates, but regarding clinic attendances, probably the cost is high. But every case is different. As I mentioned, some may require services out of the scope of regular services. They need support for meeting their expensive medical fees. This makes it difficult to make an estimation, and after all, the figure isn't low. In 1999 to 2000, we reformed the conditions of services for civil servants. At that time, the administration and the Legislative Council considered the possible impact on society. Reference was also drawn to other organizations. That's how this reform was implemented. This change happened 2 decades ago. If we are to make a change right now, the fiscal position of the government will be dramatically different. And I will ask my colleague to give you more information on the number of dental officers. Regarding the recruitment of dental officers, the situation has significantly improved from September 2024 to January 2026. We have engaged 70 new dental officers. This figure includes contract dental officers. So we look forward to gradual improvement in the situation. Mr. Wu Yingpeng, thank you. I'd like to ask about the government's talent development program. A total of 40 colleagues coming from 27 different policy bureaus and departments have been selected. From the perspective of forming a talent pool that is passionate about the country, I can see a good start. As Mr. Oscar Kwok said, it's all about a talent incubator. So how can we improve the efficiency of training or the effectiveness of training? Do you have any specific arrangements when it comes to promotion? Thank you. Thank you. Regarding the government's talents development program, there is no automatic priority for promotion. There won't be any label either. Colleagues will have to work hard. They need to excel in the program, and they also need to excel at their work. This is how they can secure a promising future. That said, for those who have joined the governance talents development program, we discussed with the mentors the development program for the senior officers. Say, when will the mentee be deployed to a more challenging position or any possible secondment to other policy bureaus to broaden the horizons? Or when will the officer be sent overseas to take part in some short-term or long-term courses? This will give them more knowledge, and they will also be able to open up their horizons. At the same time, some colleagues are seconded to international organizations. This will develop the personal skills of the officer concerned. They can also open up their horizons, improve their strategic mindset, and so on. In addition, we can see that officers who have joined this program have a promising future. They may even be able to rise through the ranks to become a senior directorate officer in the future. The higher rank the officer has, the more likely that the officer can realize his or her potential. Thank you. I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Kwok. Thank you. The ultimate goal of the Governance Talents Development Program isn't just to train officers within the government. When a mentee has improved their professional and personal skills, it is likely that they will also excel at work. In theory, it is not directly linked to the promotion of the officer. However, owing to the program, the officer would definitely gain a competitive edge, and this will definitely help the officer. Mr. Lam, thank you. I'm glad to see that the government will review the civil service pay adjustment. Regarding the 6 factors, the Hong Kong's economic conditions have improved for 3 years in a row. There is also inflation. In the budget speech, we can see that the government has turned from red to black. Colleague mentioned that there is a likelihood of a positive increase when it comes to the pay trend survey. I believe the administration has already heard from quite a lot of members that civil servants expect a positive indicator. If there are positive indicators across the 6 indicators, I hope that civil servants will receive a positive outcome. When it comes to CS pay adjustments regarding frontline civil servants or for those who have reached the maximum salary points, will they be given more consideration as the impact was greater on them as there was a pay freeze in the past 2 years? At the same time, I'd like to talk about the 2% reduction in the civil service establishment. I'd like to know how the government can maintain the high-quality civil service or public services without an increase in manpower. I'd like to know whether the administration has any roadmap or interim report to tell us about the effectiveness or the progress of the government's plan. Next, I'd like to talk about other key measures. The civil service performance appraisal system will be revamped. It will be turned more rigorous. Before the announcement of the measures, will the government talk to stakeholders? Will you take into account our consolidated views before you make a decision? Thank you. Regarding CS pay adjustments, we put civil servants into 3 different bands. That is the lower, the middle, and the higher band. The CE in Council usually takes into account the salaries of the officers in the lower band. Their salaries are lower comparatively. When the net indicator of the lower band is lower than the middle band, the percentage will be tallied with that of the middle band. I cannot give you any undertaking right now. But definitely, the CE in Council will take into account the situation for lower band officers. As for the colleagues whose salary point has already reached the maximum level of the scale, there is no practice, or there has been no practice to increase the salary of these officers who have reached the maximum point on the scale. Otherwise, this will make it very difficult or complicated for the civil service pay scale. That is because the salaries for officers working in the same position will be different. In our design of the pay scale, we have already considered the level of experience of colleagues. If a colleague has more experience, the performance of that officer will for sure be better. That's why there's a ceiling on the pay scale, and that explains our belief. That's why for those officers who have reached the maximum point on the scale, if we need to add extra to these officers, it doesn't make much sense. Departments differ from one to another when it comes to the reprioritization of work and internal deployment or internal redeployment. If members want to have a timetable or roadmap, we can go back and study with different departments. Then we can give you more information later. The third question, what is the third question? Yes, about the performance appraisal enhancement. We are already laying the groundwork for the more rigorous civil service performance appraisal system. We have listen to head of departments as well as permanent secretaries for different departments and policy bureaus. When appraising their colleagues, we have already taken into account the possible areas of improvement, and we are trying to incorporate these areas into our enhanced performance appraisal system. When we launched the enhanced performance appraisal system, we want it to be more effective. We are going to take forward this initiative in different phases. We have phase 1 up and coming, and we are going to make micro adjustments. Thank you. Mr. Lam made a very good point. Before the announcement of the enhanced mechanism, are you going to discuss it with civil service teams? Will you discuss with them? Well, before that, we will make a briefing for civil servants, but we are not going to hold a large-scale consultation session. After all, this is a practice of the administration. Opinions differ from one to another. We have already collected a lot of feedback at our work. If we are still going to conduct consultation, this will delay our implementation of the enhanced performance appraisal system. But I'd like to emphasize that we're going to take forward this initiative in phases. Civil service groups are welcome to give us feedback. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Nick Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Secretary. Thank you, Secretary, for the sharing and the briefing. I totally agree with the direction that the administration is going to take, as mentioned in the paper. I would also like to acknowledge the efforts made by the Civil Service College under the leadership of the head of the college. I think our civil servants are going to perform better. I'd like to ask about paragraph 13 of the paper. It says that the Joint Secretariat for the Advisory Bodies on Civil Servants and Judicial Salaries and Conditions of Service will see an increased provision of 3.2%, but there isn't a breakdown in relation to the salary for civil servants and judicial staff. I want to know if our judicial officers will see a pay rise. This is crucial to enhancing the core competitiveness of Hong Kong because we have to build our legal systems as instructed by our country. Second question. Chief Executive said that we have to enhance our mentality as the master and owners of Hong Kong. Back in the times when we were a British colony, our civil servants adopted the mindset of laissez-faire. But nowadays, our country wants our government to be more capable and effective. So under the National 15th Five-Year Plan, I want to ask the head of the Civil Service College about how we can promote a new culture within the civil service so that our civil servants will not remain passive or try to reduce mistakes. Secretary, paragraph 13 is not about the pay of civil servants and judicial officers. For civil servants and judicial officers, we have in total 4 consultative or advisory bodies. There is one for judicial officers and another one for disciplined service officers. There is also one advisory body targeting directorate officers, and there's another one that covers civil servants, apart from the above 3 that was mentioned. So the Joint Secretariat here is comprised of civil servants. It is because of staff changes, there will be an increase of expenditure. Here we're mostly talking about general grade staff. So if a staff leaves, we have to hire another one, and there might be changes in terms of staff costs. For judicial staff, they do not fall under this head in terms of the total provision. Now, in terms of how we can promote a new culture, we have to do this across different grades and ranks. So the Civil Service College emphasizes the mentality of civil servants. We want to be people-oriented, we want to serve the public, and we want to take up the mission given by our country. So there is training for staff of different grades and ranks. Perhaps I'll ask the head of the college to elaborate. Mr. Kwok, I'll be brief. Just now the secretary mentioned that we want to be people-oriented, we want to be result-oriented. This are also part of the culture that we want to promote. In terms of the mentality training that we provide for our civil servants, because of the history of Hong Kong, we want to promote patriotism. We want our civil servants to understand the development of our country. We have talked about this a number of times, but at the end of the day, we want our senior officers to be proactive. They have to take the initiative to learn about the changes in our environment. We do not want to be passive and only respond or react to any changes. So this is the kind of strategic mindset that I have been talking about. Senior officers, when they formulate policies, they have to take into consideration the external environment. So they have to make advanced deployment. To give you an example, they have to be able to notice any causes or potential causes for things that might happen. They have to be able to grasp any important moments or seize important opportunities. It's not that we can teach them how to do so. Instead, they have to learn about this, and they can only learn this through their job. Now it's my turn. The government continues to reinforce the fiscal consolidation program. The government, on one hand, has to reduce the civil service establishment, and on the other hand, it has to make sure that public services will not be compromised. In order to achieve this, the Secretary said we have to make good use of the government's manpower, for example, through reprioritization, through the use of technology, and through streamlining of work processes, we could achieve this. At other panel meetings, government officials, when responding to how they could streamline manpower or work processes, they said they could leverage technology, and they were able to tell how many clerical staff they could reduce, and they could also tell us specifically how much time they could save by making use of technology. Last month, Ms. Nixie Lam and I had a meeting with the Secretary, and during the meeting we said we hope the Secretary could tell us the effectiveness of these measures. We want the government to provide us with figures to show us what kind of results we could achieve by implementing these measures. We want the government to make good use of its manpower resources and at the same time ensure public service quality. So can the Secretary tell us specifically these statistics or figures? Also, a lot of times when the government has to create any new posts, they are very nervous about the costs incurred, but this time around, you're just asking government departments and bureaus to reduce the civil service establishment by 2% without paying attention to what might be compromised. If you could not effectively reprioritize work or streamline work processes, you would end up making the workload of our civil servants heavier. You might even compromise the public service quality. So I want to know how the Secretary could strike a balance here by implementing the measures to reduce civil service establishment. I believe by the end of the current term of the government, 10,000 posts would be cut. There were 20,000 vacant posts, and after deleting 10,000 posts, you still have to fill 10,000 posts. I believe it will be very hard for you to cut the rest of the 10,000 posts. So what measures would you put in place to make sure that these 10,000 posts would be filled? Secretary, we strive to streamline work processes and apply technology as we reduce the civil service establishment. It's hard for us to give you figures on this. For some departments, they may see a heavier workload and their work may become more complicated. But as I said, we could share with you some success cases of some government departments. Different management approach has been adopted to ensure success. So perhaps we could provide you with these examples after the meeting. Second, about reducing civil service establishment, will the CSB review the results of different departments? Will they end up failing to achieve the targets, or will they actually make life a lot harder for civil servants after reducing the civil service establishment? The controlling officers of each head has to make good use of the existing resources. How they distribute the resources, they have the flexibility to do so, and they have to be accountable for that. They have to be accountable for the work delivered. If they fail to make effective use of public resources, for example, if they allocate too many resources to one type of work and the results are compromised or the services are compromised, they will have to be held accountable. So in relation to reducing the civil service establishment, we have already reviewed the 2% target. It is a very low percentage. If departments work hard to streamline processes, they will be able to achieve the 2% target. As mentioned, we do not implement the 2% target across the board. Instead, under each expenditure envelope, we will see a 2% reduction in the civil service establishment. And the person in charge of each expenditure envelope has the flexibility to decide how much they want to lower in terms of the civil service establishment. So it is up to the controlling officer to decide. We, the CSB, do not comment on how the controlling officers reduce the civil service establishment, because at the end of the day, it will be the controlling officers who are held accountable. Also, it is not the end even after we have achieved the 2% target. This is because our work may change. There might be changes because we use more technology, and there might be new technologies that could help us save manpower in the future. By the 1st of April 2027, when the second round of reduction is achieved for the civil service establishment, we will review whether we want to further reduce the civil service establishment. We will report to LegCo members after we have conducted the review. This is the end of this item. Thank you, Secretary and the relevant government officials. We will now move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 4, promotion of a clean civil service. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button. In the meantime, I'll invite the CSB officials to come in.
出席呢一個。
With us today are Mrs. Ingrid Young, Secretary for the Civil Service, Ms. Shirley Lam, Permanent Secretary, Ms. Shirley Lau, Deputy Secretary, and Mr. Mack, Director of Community Relations from the ICAC. Secretary, please take us through the papers. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, members, Hong Kong has been performing well in global ranking or indicators related to integrity. Hong Kong rose to the 12th least corrupt place among 182 countries surveyed in 2025, 5 places higher than 2024. According to the World Competitiveness Yearbook 2025, Hong Kong moved up from the 5th place in 2024 to the 3rd place in 2025 in terms of competitiveness among 69 economies surveyed. Hong Kong ranked 2nd in the world in terms of government efficiency. Hong Kong maintained the 4th place in the world and the 1st in the Asia-Pacific region in respect of the bribery and corruption do not exist indicator. Civil servants act honestly and with integrity at all times. This is crucial for both governments and upholding Hong Kong's competitiveness and reputation. The CSB and the ICAC have been working closely with different policy bureaus and departments. We adopt active prevention and regulation and training as well as sanctions. We adopt this three-pronged approach. This is how we sustain the culture of integrity in the civil service. The updated Civil Service Code pinpoints the 12 core values that civil servants need to uphold. Integrity is one of them. All civil servants need to be aware of corruption and malpractices. They need to be alive to the prevention of bribery ordinance. They also need to be aware of the misconduct in public office offense. They must avoid any real, perceived, or potential conflict of interest between official duties and private interests. CSB has also established systems through different means. There are channels to declare conflict of interest. There is a clear guideline. The CSB has been working closely with ICAC. We emphasize the importance of upholding the rule of law and staying away from corruption. From time to time, we hold small group sharing sessions and seminars. We also, through different services, to provide anti-corruption guidelines. The CSB has been continuing to provide civil servants with integrity training and integrity education. In 2025, we provided a total of 440 training in relation to avoidance of conflict of interest for altogether 29,000 civil servants. Senior directorate officers have been designated as ethics officers in bureaus and departments. They act as important bridges with the CSB and ICAC. They help promote integrity activities. They also help disseminate messages, provide feedback, and organize in-house activities with ICAC support. The CSB provides ethics officers and all civil servants with training through different means. That is, resource center on civil service integrity management and an online community for ethics officers. We'll continue to enrich the contents of these platforms. We will also make it even more convenient for officers to access the information they need. The CSC has the Integrity Management e-learning platform for civil servants. We remind civil servants of important topics about integrity and probity of civil servants. The ICAC will continue to update the contents of these platforms. Regarding sanctions, we definitely adopt a zero-tolerance approach for civil servants involved in corruption or integrity breaches. Between 2024 and 2025, a total of 13 officers were removed over 5 years. That is, between 2021 and 2025, they were removed from office as a result of the breaches. I stand corrected. It should be 2021 and 2025. That is over a period of 5 years. And for those who have already left the civil service establishment, if they breach Part 2 of the Prevention of Bribery Ordinance, if the offense has to do with their government service, their pensions may be cancelled, suspended, or reduced. In the past 5 years, the overall corruption figures of the civil service has maintained stable. In 2025, the ICAC received the least number of complaints in the past 5 years, less than a quarter of the total number of complaints. We have identified a downward trend in the number of reports, complaints, and prosecutions. We'll do our level best to continue to keep our civil service establishment clean. Thank you. That concludes my introduction. We welcome members' questions. 2 members have pressed a button to speak. First, we start with Mr. Lam Wai-kong and then myself. For those who'd like to ask questions, you can continue to press the button. As we have sufficient time, I'm going to give 5 minutes to each member. Mr. Lam Wai-kong, thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. The Secretary and the ICAC have been working very hard to keep the Corruption Perception Index. Our efforts have been recognized. I'd like to ask more about this. When it comes to the promotion of a clean civil service, are staff members of subvented organizations covered, including the use of code and the enhancements of integrity training? Are the staff members of subvented organizations covered as well? Will promotion be strengthened? I'd like to ask about the figures we have in annexes. According to the figures, I can see 3-digit figures in the traceable complaints. However, when it comes to convictions or prosecutions, the figures were just single-digit or double-digit. I'd like to ask about the difference in these figures. Some civil servants might be referred to other bureaus or departments or referred to other bureaus or departments by ICAC for consideration of disciplinary or administrative action. I'd like to know how these cases are followed up afterwards. Thank you. First of all, for subvented organizations, the training I mentioned is just for policy bureaus. However, the concept of a clean civil service is applicable to all subvented organizations. I believe the ICAC has training conducted with other subvented organizations, and probably the ICAC can give you more information regarding the difference in the number of complaints. The difference between the number of complaints and prosecutions or convictions, in addition to frivolous complaints, or in cases where only simple information is provided and when more information is required. Sometimes the ICAC cannot follow up on the cases owing to a lack of contact means. However, this doesn't mean that these cases come with issues. It might be the case that the ICAC has followed up on these cases, but afterwards they didn't identify any abnormality. Turning to prosecution, there is a certain level of threshold before prosecutions can be initiated. in some cases, it is not the case that the colleagues have any issues. There could be simply areas or room for improvement in some areas. In other words, there could be room for improvement in checks and balances. In these cases, we refer the cases to the relevant policy bureaus or departments. For a majority of these cases will be referred back to the department for their own follow-up. As for problematic officers, but then the threshold isn't enough for prosecutions to be initiated, the cases will be given back to the ICAC for follow-up. They will conduct studies to see what they can do afterwards. In case of inappropriate behavior on the part of officers, definitely sanctions will be implemented. In the past 5 years, save and except 13 colleagues who breached the bribery of ordinance, the prevention of bribery ordinance, or breached the misconduct of public office, 11 officers were referred for internal investigation. Afterwards, some of them were removed from office. There could be sanctions if the level of misconduct isn't as severe. Sometimes the mechanism of a particular department needs to be revamped. Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Mack from the ICAC to give you more information. Thank you. Just now, the Secretary gave a detailed answer, and I'm going to give some more information regarding subvented organizations, or in our terms, we call them public organizations, for those who receive government subsidies. Basically, the requirement is almost identical to that of government departments. We have rigorous requirements when it comes to education, publicity, and so on. The staff members of subvented organizations need to attend training programs organized by the ICAC, and the enrollment figures are on the high side. Regarding traceable complaints, take 2025 as the standard year. 426 cases are from complaints. Only 325 cases are pursuable complaints. Among these cases, in the course of our investigation, because of the fact that corruption could be difficult to be identified, we encourage members of the public or officers to make a report whenever they identified anything abnormal. When something doesn't add up, just make a report. Sometimes there could be procedural matters, but it is not serious enough to be considered a breach in the ordinance. After we have collected the relevant evidence, we will refer the case to the DOJ. Then they will study the case and they will initiate prosecutions whenever necessary. In 2025, the number was only 8 when it comes to the number of staff prosecuted. We'll continue to work harder with the CSB. We have been keeping the figure on integrity high. Thank you. Mr. Augustine Wong, thank you. I'd like to ask about the figures in the annex. There are a number of cases received and the number of pursuable complaints. Can we have a more detailed breakdown? From which departments do you have any figures? I'd like to ask about technology as well. How can we leverage on AI to combat corruption? We need to move with the times. How can we use AI so that we can trace corruption even more easily? Technology is a double-edged sword. we can use it to track down cases more easily, but at the same time, it can also make it even more difficult for us to track down on cases. Thank you.
嗰個
Secretary, in relation to which departments were involved in the complaints, I'll ask if the relevant details could be disclosed. I mean, I will consult the ICAC, but some of the cases, there are still pending investigations, so the ICAC has to keep the details confidential. I'm afraid that we might not be able to provide a lot of details to members here. The second question is about the use of technology. The ICAC could supplement afterwards, but according to my understanding, there were different kinds of cases received in the past. There were cases involving departments that are responsible for issuing licenses or enforcing the law or even involved in procurement. I think it really depends on the nature of the work of the departments involved as we decide whether to use technology. Is it true that with technology, corruption activities are harder to detect and that we have to step up training in this regard? I think we have to look at the results of the investigations done by the ICAC first, then we can decide how we can make use of technology or how technology was used in the corruption cases. Within the government, as we strive to adopt technology, we would not forget about corruption prevention. Technology can achieve the same as that done by manual labor. It's just that technology can make things faster. So we might have to, for example, control the use of technology. So technology can be applied in, for example, helping us conduct investigations, but we have to use it in a controlled manner. ICAC. The first question is about details of complaints received. I might not be able to disclose too many details here, but basically, some cases involve government departments that are often in touch with the general public, for example, the disciplined services. This is because they have to mount a lot of law enforcement actions, so they have to be in touch with members of the public in their daily work, and there might be conflicts because of that. Therefore, we see a slightly higher number of complaints involving the Disciplined Services Department. We liaise very closely with the management of the Disciplined Services Department, and so we talk to them about these cases. Also, there are government departments that are, for example, responsible for housing, leisure and recreational facilities, as well as public hygiene, and these departments see a slightly higher number of complaints again. The CSB has been working closely with these departments, and we are seeing a lower number of complaints involving these departments. The second question asked by the member is about the use of technology. AI develops very rapidly, and we keep ourselves updated about the development of AI. We send our staff to overseas training programs. We also recruit technology officers to help track cases that involve the use of technology. In relation to education and training, we provide corruption prevention advice to different government departments and bureaus. We advise government departments to make use of AI to detect any cases that involve corruption. Any follow-up questions, Mr. Wong? No. Now it's my turn. Paragraph 18 of the paper includes some figures. According to the paper, the ICAC sees the lowest number of complaints received in relation to corruption cases. And the number of prosecutions has also lowered to a single-digit figure. And it shows that we have a clean civil service. And we are very proud of this. However, one corruption case is one too many, and it could seriously harm the image of the civil service. Unfortunately, recently there was a post-retirement contract staff who was involved in a case of accepting advantages without permission, and the case has been referred to the relevant department for follow-up actions. Well, I found this case very strange. This is because the case involves a contract staff that had previously served in the government for many years. How come that officer had no awareness of safeguarding the image of the civil service and accepted advantages without permission? So my question is, in relation to anti-corruption education for our civil servants, could you tell us the relevant details? You have included some figures in this paper, but you only said that every year you train about 30,000 officers or civil servants. It might not be realistic to train up every single civil servant in this regard. However, there are civil servants who require such training. And for these civil servants, do they only receive one training? Will there be regular training for them to, for example, recap knowledge about preventing corruption so that they have a high awareness of not breaching the law or misconducting themselves? Now, according to your statistics, there are cases referred by ICAC to bureaus and departments, and there is an increase of 23 such cases compared to last year. In response to this, will the Secretary, based on the observation of the ICAC, work with different bureaus and departments and come up with stricter guidelines? Will you, for example, provide more effective corruption prevention advice or instructions to the bureaus and departments concerned? Thank you, Chairman, for the questions. In relation to accepting advantages, I'm not going to comment on individual cases, but we do have stringent guidelines in place in relation to the acceptance of advantages by civil servants. There is a circular about accepting advantages, and this circular states that what kind of advantages civil servants could accept and the maximum amount of money that can be involved. For example, on private occasions, the maximum amount of money or gifts, discounts, or flight tickets is $3,000. On general occasions, the amount is $500. This circular, that is the acceptance of advantages chief executive's permission notice, is regularly circulated to each government department and bureau because we want to remind our civil servants of this. So all civil servants should be aware of the maximum amount. Also, bureaus and departments hold different kinds of training. For example, the ICAC holds anti-corruption seminars and talks. And as mentioned in my opening remarks, we have integrity training for civil servants. There is this ethical leadership program for each government department and bureau, and we have ethics officers in each government department and bureau. We have ethics officers because ethics officers have to identify civil servants that are in need of such anti-corruption training. So at different levels, we have training for our civil servants. This is to respond to your first question, Chairman. In relation to the second question, the ICAC refers cases to bureaus and departments, some cases that require follow-up actions. Do we review our systems regularly based on these cases referred by the ICAC? Well, the bureaus or departments that receive cases referred by the ICAC have to review their systems. If the cases involve mistakes or misconduct of their staff or loopholes of their systems, the bureaus and departments concerned will have to submit reports. They have to submit regular reports to the ICAC in relation to their review. If there is a lack of follow-up actions taken by the bureaus or departments concerned for a long period of time, the CSB would ask the bureaus or departments concerned why it is taking so long and when the review outcomes will be ready. So this is how we deal with cases referred by the ICAC. Also, in relation to how individual bureaus or departments could prevent corruption, or departments that face high risks of corruption, the ICAC carries out studies, and the findings of the studies are passed on to the bureaus or departments concerned, and the bureaus or departments have to adopt the recommendations made by the ICAC. If they are of the view that they should not adopt the recommendations made by the ICAC, they will have to explain why. So we have stringent mechanisms in place to follow up on cases referred by the ICAC. Let's see if the ICAC have anything to add. Yes, Mr. Mack. I think I've already elaborated on how civil servants could be made aware of corruption cases. Now, according to the annex in 2025, there's a slight increase of the number of cases. 87 cases were referred to bureaus or departments by us. These officers were not prosecuted, but according to our investigations, there were breaches of rules and there were malpractice that might lead to more severe misconduct in the future. That's why we referred the cases to the bureaus or departments. And this year, we see a dozen more cases referred to bureaus or departments by us. And these cases involve, for example, borrowing of money or lending of money. Among disciplined services officers, there's a sense of brotherhood. And because of this, they often borrow money to their colleagues. For those who borrow money to their colleagues, they may not breach the rules, but for those who lend money, they might breach the PBO, the Prevention of Bribery Ordinance. But we do not encourage staff or officers to borrow money to their colleagues either. And we hold regular talks or meetings with the management to explain to them about the severity of the cases. For cases that involve prosecution, after the investigations is completed, we would talk to the directorate officers concerned to tell them how they could plug the loopholes. We also strive to step up publicity and education so that people can have a higher awareness of preventing corruption.
呢個議
Thank you. Any more member? Mr. Lam, thank you. Thank you. I have two more questions. Paragraph 20 in the information paper. According to the relevant provisions of the pension legislation, the pension may be cancelled, suspended, or reduced. I'd like to know whether the government has any history or record to share with us. In paragraph 21, paragraph 11, I'd like to know how technologies will be used to monitor the conduct of civil servants. It is mentioned that this would be used. Thank you. According to the existing pensions ordinance, if a pensionable officer breaches Part 2 of the Prevention of Bribery Ordinance, and if that officer is convicted, if the conviction is related to their government service before retirement, the pensions may be cancelled, suspended, or reduced. From January 2021 to December 2025, a total of 12 civil servants had their pension cancelled, suspended, or reduced in accordance with the relevant provision. In addition, 7 officers on the MPF ordinance or the CSPF scheme breached the relevant provision, and the accrued benefits were taken back by the government. Ms. Lau, thank you. At the end of last year, we held a talk for ethics officers in the government. One of the themes of the talk was to use technology to help ethics officers to discharge the relevant duties, that is, enhancing supervision with digital solutions. We work with the DPO to use automation and digitalization and monitor works laboratories with the aim of reducing the impact of human intervention. There's a one-stop portal, a one-stop shop to provide information. We aim to minimize the risks of fraud, and we also aim to streamline procedures. Any more follow-up, Mr. Lam, please? No? Thank you. This wraps up our discussion of this agenda item. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, your team. Agenda item number 5. Any other business? There being no other business, meeting adjourned. Thank you.